For our first story, we have Am I the ass for getting my coworker fired after she kept trying to prove my service dog is fake? I have a medical alert service dog named Max who helps with a serious heart condition. He's literally saved my life multiple times by alerting before I pass out. I started a new office job 3 months ago, and everything was fine until, let's call her, Karen, started her crusade against Max to. If you're curious, here's what Max looks, link, and sit equals yaw, r, dog and auto create equals 1. Like, not his exact photo. It started small. She'd loudly announce, pets aren't allowed in the office, every time she saw us. I explained repeatedly that Max is a service dog, not a pet, and showed her his documentation. She then started telling everyone I was obviously faking, because I looked too young to be disabled. Things escalated fast. She'd tried to test Max by dropping food near him. He's trained to ignore it. She reported me to HR weekly. But the worst part? She started purposely wearing strong perfume and spraying air freshener around my desk, which triggers my condition. Max alerted 3 times in one day because of this. The final straw? I found out she was taking photos of me and Max and posting them in a Facebook group about fake service dogs, asking for ways to expose me. She included my full name and workplace. I took screenshots and went to HR. They fired her on the spot for harassment and creating a hostile work environment. Now my inbox is flooded with messages from her friends and family saying I'm the ass for getting a mother of 3 fired over a dog, and that I should have just worked from home if I'm so sick. Here's the thing. I actually feel horrible that she lost her job. Her kids aren't at fault here. But she literally put my life at risk with the perfume stunts, and doxing me online was scary. That's the end of our first post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, she would do this to someone else if she hadn't done it to you. It isn't your fault she was fired, it's her own. Not the asshole. Our second commenter says, it's not your fault she was fired. HR fired her for things she did. Our third commenter says, just FYI, if she deliberately sprayed the perfume and air freshener knowing it would trigger a medical episode for you, that's a criminal offense of assault. For our second story, we have, am I the asshole for letting my kids loot my brother's house to prove my point? My brother and his family came for a visit last month. My kids and I play with Lego and we have fun leaving little dioramas around my house. Just silly stuff like a fight between Iron Man and Darth Vader on the loot llama. It's just our way of leaving Easter eggs around the house. My nephew really liked them and decided to take a few home. When we noticed they were missing, I asked my brother to bring them back. He said that it was just kids being kids and that he would them back the next time we saw each other. I saw him for coffee and I reminded him beforehand that I wanted all our stuff back. He forgot to bring the toys. Okay, game on. We went over to his place for a barbecue. I told my kids that unless all our stuff was returned to us when we got there, literally anything in the house was fair game. Like the godless barbarians there, they went to town. When we left, I don't think there were any remotes, small electronics, or beer mugs left at his house. I actually had to sneak the dog back into the house before we left. I started getting calls on our way home. I ignored them. When I got home, I returned his calls. He said a bunch of stuff was missing from his house. I said I would check with the kids. He said that I fucking well knew what happened and that he wanted his shit back. I said I would box it up and return it the next time we saw each other. As long as we got our Lego back. He was at my house with my Lego later that evening. He had even accidentally included stuff that wasn't ours. I returned it and his stuff. I told him that this is how we would be dealing with his kid in the future. He is pissed off that he had to make a special trip to return my stuff. My parents think that there is a huge difference between an 8-year-old taking Lego minifigures and a couple of teenagers pillaging their uncle's house. Am I the asshole? That's the end of our second post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, not the asshole wouldn't have to go that far if he just gave you your stuff back. Our second commenter says, I actually had to sneak the dog back into the house before we left. I laughed for the first time since my horse recently died reading this. AITA. Our third commenter says, so you were literally at his house and they didn't give the Legos his kid stole back to you? Unless your nephew is intellectually compromised in some way, 8 years old is absolutely old enough to know that stealing is wrong. Nicely played. For our last story, we have, am I the ass for not believing my boyfriend that suddenly became gay due to the altitude difference when he was on a work trip in Utah? I can hardly believe that I am writing this or that it happened, but I am, and it did, so here we go. I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend, 29 male, for 3 years. Every now and then he has to go to Utah for a few days because his team has a customer service branch that operates out there. I got a text from one of his coworkers who has become a friend of ours, and it said that on the trip my boyfriend cheated on me with some guy on the customer care team. I did not believe it at first. Because first of all, my boyfriend has always identified as straight. And second of all, I just couldn't believe it. When he got home I asked him about it, basically expecting him to confirm it was nonsense. Instead he got real quiet and had us sit down and said he had to tell me something. He said it was true, he did have a one-night stand with a guy. I couldn't believe it. I asked him if he was telling me he was gay? Or bisexual? And regardless, cheating is cheating. He insisted he was not gay at all, but the strangest thing happened. He said that when he was at dinner with his Utah coworkers, he suddenly became gay. I was like, what? What the fuck? He said he thinks it was due to the altitude. I was like, you're fucking with me, right? But he said after he had done it with this guy, he got really confused as to how, all of the sudden, he was gay. He said that higher altitudes can have an impact on how people think, and on their emotions, and he thinks that the high altitude made him gay, temporarily. He said that as soon as he landed back home he was back to being straight. I was like, did he get drugged or something? But he said that was not possible. They were always in a group at dinner, which is when he became gay, and was only alone with the guy afterwards. He said he had done a lot of thinking on the drive back from the airport, and he confirmed within himself that he is straight, and that his only conclusion could be that he was temporarily turned gay due to the attitude. I was like, whatever, I guess we are breaking up. He looked at me confused. I was like, gay or not, you did cheat on me. He said it wasn't his fault and that human actions are just a byproduct of accidental brain chemistry, and that his chemistry had been altered, through no fault of his own, due to the higher altitudes of Utah. He said he couldn't believe I would blame him for something medical and scientific that was out of his control. He really looked bewildered that I was angry about this. I don't know, maybe he's convincing and I'm a rube, but I am starting to wonder if I am overreacting. Like, I know it sounds insane, but is it possible to accidentally change your sexual orientation due to emotional changes brought on by altitude? Is that possible? And if it is, am I overreacting? Should I throw away a 3-year relationship for this? He's acting like I'm being rude and weird. I'm confused. That's the end of our last post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, been to UT a ton, haven't felt the slightest change in sexuality. You realize that he's feeding you a crock of shit, right? Okay. Just wanted to be sure everyone was on the same page. Now to deal with the aliens and their brainwaves beamed into my eyeballs. Our second commenter says, did he say it was the altitude? Or did he say he was really high? Our third commenter says, by that logic anyone flying in a plane becomes gay for the duration of the flight? That's all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.